بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين
محمد وآل
قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجعلناهم أئمة يهدون بأمرنا وأوحينا إليهم فعل الخيرات وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وكانوا لنا عابدين. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When people think of religion, the first thought that comes to the mind of the majority of the people is that religion is a system, a way of life that helps people connect with their Lord, connect with their Creator, and it's a form of worship, it's a form of prayer and supplication. This, my dear brothers and sisters, is one function of religion. One of the most important, or one major function of religion, is that it helps us, it gives us the tool and the platform to connect with our Creator. That's what religion does. However, there's another dimension to religion that is often overlooked, that is often undermined and ignored and neglected. And you see this neglected mainly in Muslim countries. What is that? That is the side of humanity. That is the side of religion that orders us to love our neighbors, to care for our friends, to show respect to our family members, to our parents. That is the social aspect, the social dimension of religion. And this dimension is equally as important as the spiritual dimension. Because the purpose of religion is it has two main purposes. One is it creates a vertical relationship between me and my Lord. This is the vertical relationship. And then there's a horizontal relationship that religion creates and fosters, and that is the relationship with my relationship with my neighbors, with my friends, with my family, with my parents, with my relatives, salat rahim, sadaqah, taking care of the needy, taking care of the oppressed. This is a major function of religion. Today, why is religion so necessary in society? Doesn't matter if someone's praying to God, that's not going to impact me. But a religious person makes a society, a functional society, because a religious person is ordered by their religion to give charity, to care for the weak, to stand against the oppressor, stand with the oppressed. These are the foundations and teachings of religion. And we see that when we look at the religion of Islam, we see a major part of Islam is just that. It's these principles and these teachings. This is what the religion of Islam stresses on. For example, you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهُ. Your Lord has decreed that you do not worship anyone other than Him. This is the most important order of God and the most important order of religion. Do not associate a partner with God. Okay? This is number one in priority. What comes immediately after? وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. The second order that comes immediately after obeying and worshiping the one and only God and not associating a partner with God, the second order that comes right after is to show ihsan, to show respect and love to who? To your parents. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And then the Quran continues, إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرْ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما واخفض لهما جناح الذل من الرحمة وقل رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. The Quran teaches us to foster these relationships. Relationships not only with God, but relationships with others. Relationships with the people that we live with in society, beginning with your family, beginning with your parents. Your Lord has decreed that you do not worship anyone other than Him. And second, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, to show ihsan, to show love, to show affection to your parents. And then the Quran continues, it goes further, because this is where people struggle. Today you might find someone, they'll tell you, I pray 5 times a day, I go to Hajj, I fulfill all my duties to God, I have no problem with that. We tell them, good for you. How's your relationship with your mother? How's your relationship with your father? How's your relationship with your family members? This is where people are tested, my dear brothers and sisters. Not everyone is tested with salah. Some people, their test is prayer. But the majority of the people, they find prayer, or not the majority, there's a significant group of Muslims, you look at them, you see they pray. There's no problem with their prayer. Where are they tested? They're tested when they're talking to their parents. They're tested when they're talking to their loved ones. This is why the Quran insists on this relationship. وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ, and lower your wings of humility to your parents. First, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَنْ لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا. If one of them is older, or both of them, what do? How should you treat your parents when they become older? إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. Don't talk back to them. And show them the utmost respect. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. And then lower your wings of humility for them. And after they die, you still have a responsibility to them. In their life, وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. And after they die, what do you say? وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. Oh Allah, have mercy on them the same way they had mercy on me. We see that the religion of Islam focuses on these relationships. The religion of Islam focuses on relationships with others, to give charity. This is one of the most important teachings of not only Islam, but all religions. To give charity, to help out those who are in need. This is the social dimension of religion that unfortunately is neglected by many Muslims. Today, some Muslims and some people, they have the idea that religiosity means I go and I pray, I grow my beard, I hold the subha in my hand, and that's it. That's what makes me religious. And then they neglect their neighbors, they neglect their friends. The orphans are dying out of hunger, and no one is there for them. No, this is not Islam, my dear brothers and sisters. Islam is a full package. You have to accept the full package. You can't build a relationship with God and ignore all of these other very important relationships. In one verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the mu'mineen, the believers. الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Beautiful verse that summarizes and sums up what it means to be a muhsin, what it means to be a mu'min, what it means to be a believer. الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. Those who give infaq, those who give charity and help out those who are in need. When? فِي السَّرَّاءِ, in times of ease, وَالضَّرَّاءِ, and in times of difficulty. Giving in times of ease is very easy for us. Everyone could go and give someone. The time that your faith is tested is when you don't have. When you have very little and you come and you give someone else, that is what God loves. And this is why the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds everyone and tells everyone what they did. Because for 3 days they slept hungry. For 3 days they gave up their own food. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. And they didn't do it for worldly gains. They didn't do it for pleasure. They didn't do it for anyone to say thank you. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. We do this for the sake of God. We don't want anyone to thank us. This is giving, an act of humanity, an act of social justice that stems from religion, that doesn't stem from greed, that doesn't stem from other desires and worldly pleasures. So here, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. Second, another very important quality that we need to have in order to function as a society, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. What's كَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ? كَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظ means control your temper, control your anger. The hadith says the source of all problems is anger. Because when you're angry, you lose it. When you're angry, you don't function properly. Sometimes when we're angry, we say things, we do things that end up hurting other people, that end up hurting ourselves, that end up breaking the bonds in society. And this is wrong. This is why from the qualities of a mu'min is وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ, to control your anger. Now my dear brothers and sisters, is anger always a bad thing? No. Anger is not always a bad thing. Sometimes anger is necessary. When is anger a good thing? Anger is necessary if it's fi sabilillah, if it's in the way of God. If you see someone disobeying, if you see someone that is publicly doing something wrong and you become angry, then that means you're allowing your desires and your moods and your anger to align with what God wants. And that is good. That's a good thing to have. You should be happy when you see people not doing something wrong, making God happy. And you should be angry when you see people making God upset, people oppressing. That should anger the mu'min. We shouldn't be asleep while we see people oppressing and sinning and doing things that are wrong. So, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ, this is talking about worldly things. This is talking about things that have to do with yourself. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, and forgiving other people. One of the most important qualities of the believer is that they let go of the mistakes that others commit. If someone wronged me, something personal, وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ, you forgive that person. This is when we look at Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. When we look at the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, we see this verse applies to them. They were the ones who were the embodiment of this verse. They used to forgive people. People would harass them. People would abuse them. People would not respect them, and they would show respect to them. And they would let go of the temper that may come towards them. In a few days we will be celebrating the birth of Imam Al-Hasan alayhi salam. Very beautiful story from the life of Imam Al-Hasan. One day a man, he comes from Damascus. Now the environment in Damascus at that time, during the time of Imam Al-Hasan, who was the ruler? Muawiyah was the ruler. And Muawiyah was filling the whole community with propaganda against the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Against the Ahlul Bayt. So people there, they actually thought that Imam Ali, Imam Al-Hasan, Imam Al-Hussein, the Ahlul Bayt, they were bad people. This is why when people heard that Imam Ali was killed in Masjid al-Kufa, some people asked, how was he killed? They said he was killed while he was praying. Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam struck him. Some people, they said, Ali prays? Ali prays? Imam Ali was the one who was the first to pray with the Prophet. Some people, they didn't know because of all the propaganda. And this is why it's very important that we, even now, it's very important that our source of information, we have to check it. You don't just go and believe anything that you hear out there. So this man from Damascus, he comes to Medina, and he sees Imam Al-Hasan alayhi salam. When he sees Imam Al-Hasan, as soon as he sees the Imam Al-Hasan is the grandson of the Prophet. As soon as he sees him, he begins to curse every single bad language, and he uses it against Imam Al-Hasan alayhi salam. Now, what would you do? What would I do if someone starts randomly, I don't know this person, they start cursing at me, they start using all the foul language? There's a question we have to ask ourselves. Imam Al-Hasan alayhi salam, he tells him, you seem to be a stranger. You seem to be not from here. If you need a place to stay, come, I will give you a place to stay. If you need food, I will give you food. If you need clothes, I will give you clothes. If you need a camel or a horse, I will give you anything that you need. Come to us and we will give you. The man, he started crying. Because he saw that the way he treated the Imam treated him 180 degrees different. He treated him with total compassion. Started crying and he says, Allahu a'lam haythu yaj'al risalatah. God knows exactly with which kind of people He gives this risala and this message. So my dear brothers and sisters, we said, Wallahu yuhibbul muhsineen. Allah loves those who do ihsan, those who help out others. And who does God not love? Allah does not love those who hurt other people, those who abuse, those who take advantage of other people, those who oppress other people. وَإِذَا تَوَلَّى سَعَى فِي الْأَرْضِ لِيُفْسِدَ فِيهَا وَيُهْلِكَ الْحَرْثَ وَالنَّسْلَ وَاللَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْفَسَادَ وَيُهْلِكَ الْحَرْثَ وَالنَّسْلَ وَاللَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْفَسَادَ. Allah does not like the one who hurts people, the one who abuses people. And we have multiple narrations that say on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if someone did something to wrong God, other than shirk, other than associating a partner with Allah, someone did something wrong between themselves and God, Allah will forgive that person. If this person has the iman and the foundations. But if someone is a mu'min, a believer, and they have their account with God is 100%, everything is good. But you see, this person, he abused his brother. This person stole from his neighbor. This person did not respect his or her mother. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, my part I will forgive you. But you hurt each other, you guys have to sort it out between yourselves. You have to sort it out with one another. And that is the dhulm, that is the oppression that will lead to many people suffering on the Day of Judgment. The dhulmul ibad, ba'dhum li ba'd. When people oppress one another. And this is why the purpose of religion is to establish a society where there's equality, where there's equity, where there's justice, where justice is established. And Allah says it in the Quran, this is why prophets and messengers were sent. One of the most important reasons why God sent prophets and messengers is what? So people stand for what is right. In Surah Al-Hadid, Allah says, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْمِيزَانِ لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. Allah says, we sent, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا, we sent our messengers, بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ, we gave them the proofs and the books and everything, the tools to guide people and admonish people for what? Why did God send Musa and Isa and Prophet Nuh and Adam and all of these prophets? Why? Allah tells us why. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. So people uphold justice. So people do not oppress one another. So people do not abuse one another. This is the main function of religion. Many of us ignore that. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he says, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. Verily, the reason why I was sent was to enhance and increase the akhlaq of people, the morals of society. When society is oppressing one another, that means there's no morality. That means there's no ethics. That means there's no respect when there's oppression and abuse. And similarly, we see this is what made some prophets very great. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, one of his names is Khalilullah. Khalilullah. What does Khalilullah mean? Khalilullah means the friend of God. The hadith says Ibrahim reached that position where he is called Khalilullah, the friend of God. Why? لإطعام الطعام والصلاة بالليل والناس نيام. Because Ibrahim used to do two very important things. One is إطعام الطعام. He used to feed people. He used to feed people. And the second one is he used to pray at night when everyone is asleep. But he used to feed people. That is at the same level as someone who's exhausting themselves and praying in the middle of the night while everyone is asleep. Feeding people. That will earn you the position of being so close with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And my dear brothers and sisters, when it comes to social justice, when it comes to caring for people, for humanity, there should be no discrimination. There should be no discrimination. Oh, this person's from my country. This person's not from my country. This person's from my village. This person's not from my village. Today, with the issue of Ukraine, we see there's discrimination in the human rights, in the giving, in the charity, and social justice that the United States is implementing. Right? You see, now everyone is worried about the people in Ukraine. And we support them, and we're against anyone oppressing anyone else. And we also pray for the oppressed in Ukraine. But wait a second. What about those who are oppressed in the African continent? What about those who are being bombed day and night in Yemen? What about those in Afghanistan who are being abused? What about the Palestinians? We don't care for them? We're not going to give them news coverage? We're not going to mention them? We're not going to send any donations for them? We're not going to send food for them? This is discrimination. If you're giving, if you care for humanity, then there should be no discrimination. Islam teaches us. Now, this is not to say that some Muslims don't discriminate. There are Muslims that discriminate as well. But Islam as a religion teaches us not to discriminate when you're giving. Teaches us to look at people equally. This is why, this is a very beautiful story from Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim, he used to feed people. So he used to go out and stand in the street, sometimes waiting for hours until someone passes by. He would take that person by his hand and he would tell him, come and eat with me. So one day he finds someone and he tells him, come and eat with me. So that man, he comes and he follows Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. He comes and he wants to eat with him. Before Prophet Ibrahim eats, Prophet Ibrahim is a prophet of God. He knows who Allah is. He knows all of the blessings are from God. He says, Bismillah, in the name of God, I'm eating. That man, he doesn't say anything. Prophet Ibrahim tells him, you're not going to say in the name of Allah? He said, who's Allah? I don't believe in God. Prophet Ibrahim tells him, you don't believe in God? He says, no, I don't believe in God. Then Prophet Ibrahim tells him, then you can't eat with me. The man, he said, you asked me to eat and now you're telling me I can't eat? Okay. He got up and he left. The man left. As soon as the man left, Jibreel descends down. And he tells him, Ya Ibrahim, what have you done? What have you done? Allah tells you, oh Ibrahim, I've been feeding this man his whole life and this man does not acknowledge me. Now one meal you come and you're giving him all of these conditions and stipulations? So Ibrahim tells him, what should I do? He tells him, go and feed him. Go and feed him. Allah is the one who gives the rizq. Ya man yu'ti man sa'alah wa yu'ti man lam yas'alhu wa man lam ya'rif. In Dua Rajab, we say this dua. God is the one who gives those who ask him, those who don't ask him, and those who don't even recognize him. So Ibrahim runs after that man. He tells him, please, I beg you, come and eat with me. The man said, what happened? A moment ago you kicked me out, and now you're telling me come and eat. Ibrahim tells him, that Lord that you refuse to acknowledge made me come after you. made me come after you and feed you. That man said, then that Lord is worthy of being worshipped. And he joins and he believes in God and he accepts God. So we understand from this that religion is a system of social justice, caring for other people, caring for those who are in need. And this is why the job of all of the prophets was what? To save people. No, Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he was sent to save the Israelites from Fir'aun. Dawood was a king who was a prophet as well. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he was sent to the people of Mecca to guide them, to remove the oppression and the tyranny that was destroying the fabric of society. You know, one of the things that Islam is against, if you read the Quran, you see Islam from day one is against interest, riba. Now, of course, we live in times where riba and interest is something that is very common. But Islam stood against it from day one. From day one, Islam stood against it. Why? Because the people of Mecca were using riba to interest to continue the oppression towards other people. It's a form of oppression, financial oppression, economic oppression. Why? Some of those people in Mecca had idols. They had filled Mecca, the city that was founded by Ibrahim, the city of monotheism, had become a hub of idol worship. So what happens? This one who doesn't have a son, this one who their crops, they're not growing, this one who their marriage is falling apart, they come to Mecca, and what do? This one is praying, I need a child. This one is praying, I need to have kids. I need my marriage to be secure. This one, their crops, finances, all of these things. So what happens? They come and they say, I need to pray to have a kid. They tell him, yes, okay, you need to pray to have a kid. You go and you pray to Hubal. This one, you need to pray to your crops to grow. You go and you pray to Uzza. This one, you go and you pray to Manat, Allat. You go and you pray to these idols. And in order to pray, what do you have to do in order to pray to these idols? You have to go and put gold. You have to go and put money. You have to go and put food, something in front of that idol. Some of these poor people, they had nothing. So they would go to these big families like Abu Sufyan and others. They would tell them, okay, we'll give you money, but you have to give us back 20%, 10%, whatever it is, you have to give us back. And this was a system that created indentured servants. It created slaves because of the poverty. This is why Islam came in and stood against this from day one. Said, no, there's no interest. You want to help someone out? Then take back exactly what you gave this person. Interest is haram. So this is something that the religion of Islam stood by to teach us to be advocates for social justice and social equality and equity. And the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the family of Rasulullah, they also carried on that job and that task. This is why Allah says in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا, and we appointed them as imams that guide by the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Guidance doesn't come just like that. You have to do something to guide people. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِمْ فِعْلَ الْخَيْرَاتِ, and we ordered them and were revealed upon them to do good deeds. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِمْ فِعْلَ الْخَيْرَاتِ وَإِقَامِ الصَّلَاةِ, and to uphold prayers. وَإِيتَاءِ الزَّكَاةِ, and to give zakat, alms. وَكَانُوا لَنَا عَابِدِينَ, and they were worshippers, devout worshippers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why we see the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, they stood for social justice. Rasulullah, he was an advocate of social justice. A part of the first thing in his mission was to establish a society based on equality, where there's justice, removing injustice, fighting discrimination, fighting racism, giving rights to women. Their rights were taken away. Islam came and gave them those rights. Rights even to the planet, to the environment, to the animals, to everything around you. And then you see the Ahlul Bayt, they follow in the same footsteps. The Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Fatima Zahra alayha salam, she goes and she becomes an advocate for social justice when Rasulullah has just been buried because the ummah neglected the rights of people. Then you see Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Al-Hasan, Imam Al-Hussein. Imam Al-Hussein, why did he go out and standing against Yazid? Because he wanted reform. إِنِّي أُرِيدُ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي. And you see that they did it in a way of humanity, in a way of giving and caring and loving for people. Loving people. One day Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, and I'll end with this story. Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, two stories. Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, he sees Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. He sees Imam Zayn al-Abidin at night, in a cold, wintry night. He sees Imam Zayn al-Abidin carrying a heavy bag on his shoulder. So he tells him, Ila ayn yabna Rasulullah, where are you going, O son of Rasulullah? The Imam tells him, I'm preparing for my journey. I'm preparing for my travel. You see someone carrying a suitcase and they're walking and they're going somewhere. So the man, he tells Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he tells him, let some of my men come and carry for you. Why are you carrying this heavy bag? He tells him, no, this is a journey that only I could carry for. He said, I thought the Imam had personal business and I left him. The next day, he sees Imam Zayn al-Abidin in the city again. He tells him, I thought you were leaving. I thought you were going out of town. What happened? The Imam tells him, I was talking about the journey of the Akhirah. So he discovered that Imam Zayn al-Abidin had a heavy bag on his shoulder. He wasn't carrying clothes. He wasn't carrying his shoes and his toiletries like what we carry when we're traveling. He was carrying food to go and give it to the needy in Medina. And every night he would carry a heavy bag on his shoulder and he would go around to the homeless areas, the homeless shelters, and he would put food under the cheek of the sleeping homeless person. This is what the Ahlul Bayt teach us. And finally, the story. Imam Al-Hasan alayhi salam, he sees his mother Fatima alayhi salam. She has a coin in her hand and she's rubbing it with her thumb. She's rubbing it with her hands, polishing it. So he tells her, Ummah, what are you doing? Oh mother, why are you playing with this coin? She tells him, oh my dear son, I made the intention to give this in the way of Allah. And I want to give something clean and shiny and beautiful in the way of Allah. She wanted to give it as a sadaqah, so she wants to give something clean. She says, because I heard your grandfather Rasulullah saying that the sadaqah falls in the hands of God, the metaphoric hands of God, before they fall in the hands of the poor person. This is a religion of social justice. My dear brothers and sisters, let us uphold social justice. Let us care for stopping the oppression in society, whether it's in our inner circles, in our town, in our city, in our country, or globally. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi at-tahirin.